I am Slick Nick. I am the living legend, and I can appreciate intelligence. I received a very intelligent comment, very short, only, 4 words? Here it is. I made a video recently called, "You're too young to care as much as I do about money. It's impossible." And our friend Zenow Braces asked this question, quote, "Nick, are you liberal?" End quote. And I suppose that came from some of the things I said in the video. I talked about how, for me and my household, the way we run things is it's a matter of we are very strict on having a budget, managing our money, saving our money, investing our money. You know, just to give you a glance, my wife and I make great money for our full-time jobs. Then I have this YouTube channel, another one that's last month alone pulled in $426 just for making these videos. I run an SEO side job for a university. I have my own blog, which also brings in easy revenue. I had last week I had 2 different companies say, "Hey, can we write you a guest blog post?" And I said, well, my rate's $35. So they paid me $35 to put a guest article that linked back to their company. I had 2 of those in 1 week. There's $70 just write that for nothing. $70 just to copy and paste their thing and hit publish on my own blog, Family Friendly Daddy blog. So we have all these other ways we're making money, plus Amazon links, the video where I shaved my head and I said, here's what I used. I sell so many of those a month by people clicking on a link. So the reality of it, and hopefully just from me saying these things, it's a reminder that no matter how much you believe the character I play in these videos, I'm doing this for the money. I'm doing this as one of my many side hustles. So when I say that I care about money, it's not for the 1980s version of this, where living in excess and buying all these flashy things to impress people. It's actually the opposite. It's about having a low overhead, not spending a lot of money. And if I'm going to brag or have any amount of pride when it comes to spending money, it's about how little I paid for something. The Jeep Wrangler that I'm getting, I was able to get such a good deal on it that I'm saving somewhere around, I don't know, $8,000-9,000 on it. And that's what I'm bragging the most about it. Not the fact that I have it, but the fact of what a good deal I got on it. I'm so proud of that. So that's very much a part of our identity. So you can see there's a lot of conservative mindset on that. So I can understand, you would ask, are you conservative or are you liberal? And the question is, I am technically both. Do you recognize the symbol? This is the libertarian symbol, the libertarian mascot. There are Republicans, there are Democrats, and I am not one of them. So as a libertarian, what we do is we take what I believe is the best parts of both parties as far as the mindsets go. When it comes to the Republican side, the conservative side, we adopt a very conservative view on spending money for the nation. So libertarians are not big into our government just having all these things that they're throwing money, all these programs, and no one even knows where the money going or what it's actually doing or helping. We definitely, absolutely question that. But we also question military spending. All the billions of dollars that goes for our soldiers to, as we're told, they're fighting for our freedom and they're defending our freedom. All because of 9/11. Okay, so maybe there were some legitimate things that needed to happen as far as our military involvement back when it happened. But we're still over there. We're still very involved. We are ultimately policing the world. There's a Metallica song, "Don't Tread on Me," where there's a line in there about constant surveillance. And that's ultimately what we are, the police of the world. And we're having to pay for that. We have, over 600 military bases across the world in other countries. Well, who's in our country that has military? Who are we allowing to? I don't think it works both ways, does it? Because we are policing the world. We are constantly protecting our freedom. And we are being told that these soldiers are giving their lives to defend our country. But I feel maybe we didn't learn enough from Vietnam, that when there are these political issues on the other side of the world that in theory threatens our freedom, our ideologies, that we will sacrifice thousands of U.S. soldiers' lives for what's gone on over there. A libertarian is quick to question that. It's not that we don't appreciate and respect all of our soldiers and our military. It's not that. It's that if we're not careful, we'll get in this mindset of don't question the government, don't question the military, because whatever they're doing, military intelligence, trust me, take our word for it, it's for your freedom. But that's a lot of lives spent and billions of dollars spent. Libertarians definitely question that. And I definitely question that in conjunction to, and I want to talk about abortion for just a moment, I'm definitely absolutely morally opposed to abortion. I'll be very clear about that. With that being said, I recognize, what about the baby once it becomes a full-grown man and he's now in the military and we're just throwing those lives over at what's the end result here? We're just generically told it's for freedom, it's protecting freedom. So libertarians question that. So yes, I'm against abortion, but I'm also against throwing away human lives on fighting ideologies that are going against the United States. It's more about truly defending our land and not just constantly spending all these millions of dollars and thousands of lives on that. We question that, whereas the mainstreams tend not to question that as much, I feel. That's very much a libertarian mindset. Now that I've talked to you about that we're very conservative about spending United States money and protecting our economy, libertarians are fiscally conservative, but we're also socially liberal. We're socially liberal. So I'll be very clear. As you know, I am a Christian, and I mean not just like casual, just go to church on Sunday and Christmas. What's funny is it's more like the opposite. I don't go on Christmas and Easter because that's when everybody else shows up for those 2 times a year, and I typically don't go because it's too crowded. Okay? So with that being said, I am a Christian. Well, what about gay marriage? What about that? Well, for one, it's already legal here in the United States, so what's there to really question? It's already legal. But this is still a question that comes up towards Christians. What about homosexuals? What about gay marriage? What about gay people? Well, here's what I'm going to say. I believe that it would be hypocritical of the Christian faith to point out homosexuals and say they're the sinners. That would be hypocritical to point out that one thing, because Christianity is that we are all born sinners. We all have certain things that we're more prone to do, to be, that are going against God's will. So I'm not worried about gay people. Let gay people do what they're going to do. That's their thing. But what do I need to focus on? What do the rest of us need to focus on? Because how much of America is gay? Less than 5%? So that's 95% of us that are not attracted to the same gender. What about our problems? What about the things that the Bible teaches for us? So for example, now granted this isn't an issue for me. I mean, I've been married for nearly 11 years, but the Bible is very clear about premarital sex. Now, that comes to a shock to a lot of you. Like, whoa, is he really having this conversation? Yes, I am. Because the Christian faith teaches against that. And even when Jesus saw that with the woman at the well, and he said, go and tell your husband what you've seen today. And she said, well, I don't have a husband. He said, I know. You actually are living with a man. You've been married several times before, but the man you're with now, you're just living with him. And he said, go and sin no more. So it's interesting how, especially in America, we put homosexuality in this corner over here and say, this is bad. A lot of Christians are, this is bad. But then we're not pointing out the fact that, what about premarital sex? What about people who aren't married? What about that actually relates to the rest of us? What about that? What about the TV shows and movies that we promote, that we support, that are actually celebrating that? Okay? So what about that? And that's just one thing. What about gossip? What about gossip? The Bible talks about how our tongue is basically just a bunch of flames, like the flames of hell, as far as how they can destroy by talking about other people and all of that. And so for me, that's an obvious thing that a lot of people need to be worried about. They need to be worried about so many things. Being greedy, not loving your neighbor as yourself. And then here we are getting caught up in worrying about 2 people that are gay and what they're doing that's not affecting me. See, that's a libertarian mindset. I can be a Christian, but I don't have to stand behind one political party that's saying, well, you guys are wrong. It's a matter of, when it comes to morality, we ultimately, as long as it's not actually hurting another person, we're not concerning ourselves with it, ultimately. So gay marriage, it's not that I'm against it or for it. It's that I don't believe that the United States government, from a government point of view, needs to be involved in that anyway. As far as, to me, what's marriage? Okay, for me, as a Christian, yes. One man, one woman, yes. But I don't see why the government has a role in marriage anyway. Why do we need the government's permission to be married? A marriage is before God, okay? So why does the government get involved in caring about who's marrying each other? To me, it's irrelevant. The government, okay, let's do the paperwork. Oh, that's fine. Here, government. But ultimately, I don't care what the government thinks about my marriage. It's a religious thing for me. Certain people are given all this power over the government, say, please, government, let this marriage be legal. And they finally got their wish. Okay, fine. But if you're married, you're married. In your mind, if you're married, then that's marriage for you. How the state, how the United States government labels marriage, it doesn't matter to me. It has nothing to do with me. And my own marriage of nearly 11 years has nothing to do with the government. I don't care how they feel about my marriage. I'm married. I got married in a church, before God, before family, and that's it. So the point is, and I tell that story because it illustrates that as libertarians, when it comes to the government, we're more about a smaller government and say, why give all this power to the government? Why give them all this power over our freedom and over our money, over our tax money? But that's what libertarians question. And we see fault in both Democrats and Republicans that they spend way too much money on caring about stuff that really we don't need to be involved in. We spend way too much money worrying about laws against certain things that ultimately it's none of our business. So, and even that thing about gossip, I'm pointing out gossip as a sin in the Bible and saying people are so worried about gossip, or they're not worried about gossip, but they are worried about gay people. It's like, worry about gossip. Worry about the fact that you're all caught up in other people's business instead of loving your neighbor as yourself. I think, to me, that's what Jesus is about. That's my opinion. That's my viewpoint. That's my perspective of Christianity. So, in closing, yesterday I was driving down here to my parents' house, and I was like, I listened to my old iPod, and I'm like, okay, what's something I just haven't listened to forever? And Sting, the lead singer of the Police, I have a Police t-shirt, by the way, that you'll see me wear every once in a while. And there's a song on there called If I Ever Lose My Faith. And he has this line in there about the second verse, and he says, people say I've lost my faith in politicians. And then he says something like, I only see them as game show hosts anyway. And that's how definitely I believe. I'm politically independent. And this is really ultimately the party that I support. I actually voted for the Libertarian candidate in the last presidential election. It's a matter of, as long as we tend to stay divided and think you're either Republican or you're Democrat, you're either conservative or you're liberal, then we're just going to keep swinging the pendulum back and forth between each election. And ultimately, libertarians want to see a candidate who's truly middle of the road, adopting the best of both worlds. Be very conservative with how we're spending our money and human lives in the military. And then when it comes to laws, if it's not hurting you or somebody else, stay out of it. It's none of your business. If your faith is so important, then it's more powerful than the government anyway. If Christianity is greater than the United States government, then we're not going to need to make laws to make certain sins. And I'm not, when I say that, I mean, those people see other people's problems as the real sins, but not the stuff that they don't see as their sins. They see other people's problems as sins, but their own issues, they don't. And so for the libertarian mindset, it's a matter of stay out of it. It's not something, focus on yourself, help other people, love your neighbor as yourself. Because again, if the Christian faith is greater than the government, then we're not going to be having laws to make certain things illegal, because our actions, our love, our care for other people will be stronger and more powerful than a law that our government puts in charge to stop that thing. I believe Christianity, I believe Christ is stronger than all of those things. I don't think that we need to hand the power over to the government. So there you go. You asked me if I'm liberal. Yes, I am. I am socially liberal, and I'm fiscally conservative. And this has been a promotion of the libertarian mindset. You got questions? I'm happy to talk about it right here.